In the Smart SEM software, go to Tool, click Go to Panel. In the panel, click SEM Control and Stage Navigation. If somebody used the instrument for EBSD, they might have Rotate and Tilt left open. If it is the case, be sure to uncheck DIN Focus, Dynamic Focus, uncheck Scan Rotation, and uncheck Tilt Compensation, then close the window. Use some carbon tape. Cut a piece. Peel the wax paper. Then, lay the sample over the top of the tape. Press each corner of the sample to secure it. Then, fold the excess tape over the surface of the sample edge to provide a path for the excess electrons to have a path to ground. If the sample is non-conductive, it will have to be sputter-coated with either carbon or gold. This holder is for cross-section, to see layers from a cross-section. We place tape on either of the sides and stick the sample on the chosen side to mount it on the holder and then tilt it. We must use the single holder for cross-section mounts rather than the carousel to avoid damage to the pole piece. The carousel is only for flat samples. Once the sample is mounted, secure the sample stub on the sample holder by tightening the set screw. For stubs placed at the center position, the carousel mount position is position 0. The set screw is accessed through the large hole here, not the very large one on the flat side. For this holder, we can mount 9 sample stubs. After mounting the samples, you must measure the height from the holder surface to the top of the sample. This one is 4 mm, so let's call it 5 mm. If you use this one, we measure 19 mm, so let's call it 20 mm. That is how you prepare the sample prior to loading it into the SEM. Now let's move to the SEM. First, we must open the nitrogen gas tank. Only the main valve. Do not touch the regulator. Next, press vent. It takes about 7 to 10 seconds to vent the sample airlock. Once the LED stops blinking, it is ready to open. Slide the door out. If it is sticky, wiggle it a little. The flat side of the holder has a tapped hole. It should be towards the door. Slide the holder on the Teflon base all the way towards the door, then push the rod against the sample holder while keeping it in place, and turn the rod clockwise to screw it into the holder and engage the first thread. Then Continue to turn clockwise and tighten the holder onto the end of the rod. Using your two thumbs, slide the door in until you hear a click. Some people leave the door open like this. It is not good. You must push the door until you hear the click. Once the door is closed, press the store button to initiate the palm down. It will take about 10 seconds. Then, click Transfer to open the door between the load lock and the main SEM chamber. Once it is open, you can slide the holder in by pushing the rod until it stops and is all the way in. This is good. This is not good. This is also not good. The holder must be all the way flush with the stage. Then, unscrew the rod until you hear a noise indicating that it is loose. Then, pull the rod out until the LED stops flashing. Then, press the store button. You can now turn off the gas by closing the main cylinder valve. In the sample navigation window, enter the specimen height measured earlier, which in our case is 5 mm. If you are using the sample holder for cross-section imaging, select single stub and enter the specimen height, which is 20 mm. In this case, you will note that the red box, which is the virtual specimen size, is higher than the blue limit line below the pole piece sketch. This means that the sample must be lowered to avoid collision and permanent damage to the instrument. Lower the sample by pulling down on the small joystick on the remote. While doing so, look at the position of the red box with respect to the blue line. Once it is below the line, you are at a safe distance and you can now insert the sample. For this video, we're using the sample carousel. So we need to update the sample holder, and our specimen height is only 5 mm. To insert the sample into the beam path, we double-click on the sample position we want to center. We now need to raise the sample to the optimal height using the small joystick and paying attention to the distance between the sample and the pole piece, bringing the top of the red box to the blue line. In the SEM control window, click the Gun tab. Click the EHT equals 0 field. In the EHT target window, type 5 for 5 keV and click OK. Click the Vacuum tab. Make sure the vac status is equal to ready. Most of the time it will be, unless the sample is wet and takes a little longer to pump down. If it is not ready, just wait a little longer. Next, click the Aperture tab. Click the down arrow to select the 30 micrometer standard aperture for SEM imaging. If someone left high current on, uncheck the box to avoid negative impact on SEM imaging. On the keyboard, press Resume and wait a few seconds until the Resume Completed pop-up appears. Click OK to close it. We are now ready to turn the beam on. In the bottom right corner of the screen, click EHT and EHT on. The beam power is now running up. We can now switch the detector from TV to in-lens. Then we want to optimize the brightness and contrast. We want to change to auto BC equals BC to have the computer control the brightness and contrast. This will disable the brightness and contrast knobs. We now have to lower the magnification to the minimum by turning the magnification knob counterclockwise all the way to the minimum. Once we see the sample, in the SEM control window, we select the Scanning tab, lower the noise reduction average to n equals 1 to get real-time imaging. We can now focus using the focus knob to get the sharpest image. Overfocus, then revert back to the optimal focus. Increase the magnification, then readjust the focus. Zoom back out to the minimum magnification to see as much of the sample as possible. Then survey the sample using the joystick to locate the area of interest. Once you see the area you are interested in, press Ctrl and Tab simultaneously on the keyboard to create a marker, which you can move to the area of interest. Then click to move that area to the center. You can now zoom in, then focus to get a clear image. Then Ctrl Tab to bring the marker, move it to the point of interest, click, zoom again, not too far, focus. Once it gets worse, reverse the direction and continue. Ctrl Tab to select the point of interest, click, zoom in, do not zoom in so much that you lose all features. Move your features to the center using either the joystick or Shift X and Shift Y. Then focus one direction, the other, get the optimal focus. Then move on to the stigmators, only working one knob at a time, stigmator X and stigmator Y. Optimize stigmator X. Once you find the sweet spot, move on to stigmator Y. Then move on to optimizing the focus. then stigmator X, then stigmator Y, then focus. Cycle through the 3 knobs one at a time. You can finally optimize the position by using Shift Y and Shift X before capturing the image. You now want to adjust the brightness and contrast manually. They are currently controlled by the software, so you need to go to Detector tab and change Signal Adjust to Auto BC equals off. You can now manually adjust the contrast and brightness to an optimal setting. You also want to set the magnification to a round number by double-clicking the magnification and typing, in this case, 125K, or any number that is lower than the mag you were focused at. Next, we want to slow down the scan speed to reduce the noise. It is done by going to SEM Control, click the Scanning tab. We recommend selecting the scan speed 7, select Freeze on End Frame, then for noise reduction, select Noise Reduction equal Line Average, and increase the end number to at least 5. Finally, click Freeze. Now that the frame is frozen, we need to save the image. Click File, Save Image. Change directory to your directory on the Z drive, or create a new folder if needed. Then enter the file name you would like to use. Then we normally start the file index at number 1 and typically leave it at 2 digits. Make sure that annotation and color merge are checked. The file is now saved. To continue on, click Unfreeze, then click Scanning and increase the scanning speed to 1 to go back to real time. From here, we can zoom out look at another spot, Control Tab to select a position, zoom in, refocus, and keep going. If you want to switch sample, click Camera on the keyboard to ensure there is nothing in the way that could hit the pole piece and damage it. If you do not press Camera, you do not know what could be on the side and you could damage the pole piece. To switch sample, again press Camera, and then let's click to number 2. If something is in the way, lower the sample with the joystick, then click on the next location. Finally, move back up if needed. In this case, there is no sample, so we do not see anything besides the stage. Now we can move back to sample 0. Survey around. Once we are done measuring our sample, we finish by turning off the beam on the lower right corner. Click All and click EHT off. It takes a few seconds to cool down the filament. Wait until it is done. Then press Exchange on the keyboard. This will move the sample holder to the loading position. When the pop-up window Ready to Exchange appears, click OK. We are now moving to the SEM. To retrieve the sample, push the rod all the way, screw it in, then pull the sample out, moving the rod straight. Go very straight, straight out, until the rod retracted LED stops blinking. Then press Store. Then open the gas cylinder and press Vent. Once the vent LED stops blinking, slide the door out, straight out, and retrieve the sample holder by unscrewing the rod while holding the holder. Then, using 2 thumbs, push the door until you hear the click. Then press Store. Once the LED stops blinking, shut the gas off and you're all done.